Hello, welcome back to another Fabulous Story on my channel. I'm Jacob from Jacob's Books Corner, and today we're going to be talking about The Marionettes by Katie Weismer. I actually had plans to do a video about theorizing for book 2 before they release a book 2, but we'll do that for book 3. That's fine. This video actually is going to cover my non-spoiler review, my spoiler reviews, and my theories for book 2. I'd like to mention this is not going to be as in-depth as I had originally planned because of all my struggles I had for it. If you guys don't care about those, please jump to this timestamp right here, as that will officially start the non-spoiler review. So, I got the book as an early ARC review, which was phenomenal, and thank you so much for Katie for allowing me to do that. I actually ended up feeling really bad about it, though, so that kind of sucks. Nobody's fault but my own. I actually ended up going through a really rough time around the same point I got the book, and so it took me a long time to finally sit down and read it, and by the time I was like 150 to 60 pages into it, the book was about to come out, and I was like, oh, I'll try to finish it, and I never got around to finishing it on its actual release. I actually finished it like maybe a week or so ago, maybe 2 weeks ago by now, and it came out in August, so I do feel bad because I got an early copy of it. That's fine. It is what it is. We're moving forward. I can't wait to talk about the series. I'm super duper excited about it. It's phenomenal. And yeah, this also was supposed to be a spoilery vlog and a non-spoiler review separate, but due to a lot of different things, a lot of that just ended up not working out this time around, which does suck, but that's okay. Book 2 will be a spoilery vlog for sure. I have no doubt in my mind. Alright, let's jump into the non-spoiler section of The Marionettes. The Marionettes, in its very simplest terms, follows Valerie Darkmoor as she is training to become a marionette. She is a blood witch. She is from a very long legacy line of blood witches of the Darkmoors, and the marionettes are somebody who watches over vampires like they're their personal bodyguards, essentially. It's a very elite thing. She has to go to school for it. She has to do all these challenges and tasks for it. And this first book really does follow her as she is taking all those challenges and tasks and who she ends up partnering with. There's also an underlying mystery that's not solved, so it's just like an underlying mystery overall, and I thought it was very intriguing, and I'm very curious to see where it goes. A lot of the characters here were also phenomenal. I'm not really shocked by this, to be honest with you, because of how amazing her character Kay's character development is in her previous novels, that, yeah, I'm not shocked by it, to be honest. It is relatively shorter. It's not shorter than most of her books, but for a first book in the series, it was relatively shorter than I thought it was going to be. And I think in that case, not all the characters got as fleshed out as possible, but this is the first book in a long-form series, so I'm just excited to see where we go from here. I also read it in 3 different mediums. I read part of the audiobook, part of the ebook, and part of the paperback, and I think all 3 are perfectly enjoyable. Speaking of the ebook, it is currently in Kindle Unlimited, and it's going to stay there for a long time probably, so if you want to read it, you can read it that way if you have Kindle Unlimited, so just give you a heads up. Alright. Let's jump into our spoiler discussions by non-spoiler people. I gave this a 5, by the way, so in case you're running that on the recommendation, there you go. Go ahead and go read. Alright, let's talk spoilers. Originally, I had all these plans to go by chapter, or doing something under those lines, but ultimately, we're just going to talk about the big bullet points here. I was really shocked when she turned into a vampire, or some form of a vampire. That part right there, I think that's probably about its 50% mark. And this is a very common trend for Katie's books. I'm curious to see what happens with Wicked Souls for the sequel in that regard, but mostly when you hit the 50% mark, all shit hits the fan for almost all of her fictional books, obviously, The Anti-Relationship and The Anti-Virginity Pact. All shit hits the fan, and it's a wild ride from that point forward. This book was always a wild ride because of either Connor's, selling his body out to vampires, and Valerie's deception of it, Valerie's parents, or more of her mom and her dead sister, Catalina, Valerie's friends and their untrustworthiness of her, but also how much of amazing friends that they are, the secrets of how vampires are attacking witches in the middle of the daylight, the main mystery with the guy, I can't think of his name, and when she asked about it, people ended up dying. All were very interesting concepts. But once she turned into a vampire, I was like, damn, this is special. And it was special. The whole way through was special. I really liked Valerie as a character. The journey we went on with Valerie was phenomenal, and I'm just curious to see where we go from our really low point at the end. Also, we gotta talk about Reed. Reed is a phenomenal love interest. He's nowhere near as amazing as Miller, but for the book itself, I think he is a good love interest. Also, I'm giving the book its credit where credit is due because for a minute there, I wasn't really sure who the love interest was because of Connor. Like, Connor was a character, and I've seen this done in many other, like, I've done it personally. I know other writers who have done it, where you introduce a love interest early on, and that love interest actually ends up being a catalyst for a multitude of events, but they never actually are endgame. And that is very interesting here as well, because obviously Connor was never meant to be endgame, as it's Reed. It is Reed. That is the endgame here. And I really like Reed. I really enjoy Reginald. I love how his name is Reginald. And I do love the fact that depending on who you're talking to, his name changes. I also enjoy that. Like, and I love the banter between him and Valerie. I also loved how protective he was of Valerie. I just overall enjoyed their romance. It's very, very, very slow burn. I mean, it's there. There's like an inkling. There's like a little bit of a fire, but like it's so slow. So I'm really hoping book 2 does take with the pace. I'm curious to see how she does get over the ending events, which we'll get into just in a little bit as we get closer to the end of this video. I'm going to try to talk about some of the earlier stuff first. I'm very curious to see how their relationship will grow. Let's move over to her friends. I really liked her friends. I liked how Katie decided to world build here with her friends specifically. Showing off different witches in different groups, I found that to be very fascinating because in my mind, I would have expected that the witches would stick to the groups that they're from. You can think of all the witches that there are. Like, we have shapeshifters, we have witches that use environmental magic and stuff, and I figured that they would stick in their groups, but they did not. Poisonous people who can figure out what the poisons are. And that was not the case. I also found it interesting that Valerie is one of the last and final blood witches, and that's probably why she decided to make friends outside of her natural coven. I really liked her friends. They played a very small role here, but I think it was a necessary role, and I think overall they are some of my favorite characters, and I'm really excited to see their development or who will survive, as I do think that they're particularly easy death characters that will affect our main character very well. If they do die, I think it will even hurt us as a reader, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't end up in the final book, whenever that might be. Let's move on to her mom. Her mom was an interesting character, because on one note, I can completely understand where her mom was trying to come from to protect her, but also on another note, her mom really fucked her in the end. But I don't even know if that's necessarily her fault, or if that is the queen's fault, which is very fascinating, and yeah. I liked a lot of the smaller imagery for her mom as well. I liked a lot of the word choices that were used to describe her mom. I think she really came off the page, and I found it very interesting to learn in future iterations of the book, or earlier iterations of the book, her mom was really compassionate and lovely, and she turned out to be this character in the long run, which I always find very interesting as a writer myself. The queen herself, we can talk about the queen a little bit, was a cold-hearted bitch, and I loved her. I fucking adored this villain. I'm very curious to see where it goes. I'm super duper freaking curious to see where it goes. And yeah, like I said, I'm very curious and I'm very excited to see where the queen goes. I like the fact that she rips out the K9s, even though it disturbs me every time I think about it. But I think that's the point of it, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy that fact. The world itself is also growing very slowly. I like the elements of the world building. I like the fact that the humans do know that witches and other creatures do exist, and that they are judged based on what type of powers that they are and what group they come from. I like the fact that there's many different estates, and I know for a fact that as the books get bigger and bigger, we're going to go past those estates, and we're going to get to see more of them. If not characters from them, but actually maybe go visit them, which I'm very excited about. The majority of this book takes place on the university grounds and the estates of New York. There's a few that take place in the city, but it's very, very short chapters. And then a few in some blood dungeons or blood dens and stuff, which also I found very interesting as well. If that is brought up again in the second book, I'll talk about more there, because I personally don't have enough to say to warrant it being a part of this review. But I'm very curious to see how the laws are made. I want to know a little bit more lore and mythology put into the world that I think would be really curious. I think I'd be really interested to know. And I'd be curious to know your guys' opinions on that as well. Because, I don't know, I just would be curious to know how you guys felt about the lore and the world overall for the Marionettes. I really like the world building. I really like the show of use of magic as well. I think the magic was really well realized. I read one of my friend's manuscripts this other week, and I thought her magic was really realized as well. It reminded me of this one. This one is very powerful. Every time that Valerie used magic for fun or for, none of these were really for fun, but you know what I mean, for like mundane things or actual reasons to use magic, I felt it, and I felt her character as well, which is a lot of power to Katie for being able to do that and to be able to see that and be able to show that on page. So yeah, that's phenomenal. I don't know, I'm just ecstatic about it, to be honest with you. Super duper. So let's talk about that ending. Like I said, she has to go through all these different challenges and stuff. Some of them are interrogating girls in like the feeding farms, or if it's maybe possibly killing a loved one. Alright, so let's talk about Connor, since I've been kind of glossing over him. Like I said, I wasn't really sure if he was going to be like a huge love interest. I also had an idea that when she gets kidnapped towards the end of this book, which I also found shocking, she was tortured and stuff, which I just now remember. Damn, so much shit happened. No, good. I'm not really shocked. A lot of shit happens in Kay Weismer's book, so like it's a good time. Always on your toes. But I did think that maybe he was a part of that, and that I actually had always in my mind that Connor would end up being a bad guy. I never once got the vibe from him, even during their steamy scene that they do have. There's 2 steamy scenes in this book. I thought Reginald's was way more fucking hot, but like I understood theirs as well. I never once trusted him. I never once thought, oh my gosh, he is going to be this character that we're supposed to fall in love with and we're supposed to root for. I always felt like he was a character that I was supposed to fear and be against. And I do wonder if that was purposeful or if that's just how I read him. I'm not really sure. Because the ending fate here was really sad. I was really shocked that she had to kill him. I'm not going to lie to you, because none of my thoughts were, we're going to have to kill him at the end of this book, until like right before it happened. I think it was probably like a page or so before it happened. I was like, oh wait, shit, this is where we're headed? And I was like, fuck you, Mom. And I was like, fuck you, Reginald. And fuck you, Queen. Yeah, whole 9 yards. Because Valerie had already been through so much that I felt like this was just like a step too far. I do enjoy the fact that Reginald tried to stop her and tell her that you didn't need to go through with this, that we could move it until you were at a better state of your life. I also found it very interesting that she ended up to do it. She was very compelled to do it, because ultimately it would have probably been a bad idea if she didn't do it. But I was really shocked that she did do it, and that, you know, Katie was willing to go there, and I thought the scene was written so beautifully and so well done. Yeah, I don't know. I was a pretty big fan of it, to be honest with you, and I'm very excited to see what happens. She ends up obviously killing him, and he ends up coming back and biting her. I'm pretty sure the last line is him jumping at her. I guess he is in bored motion. Something crashes into me so hard, knocks the breath from my lungs. Suddenly, I'm on the ground on my back. The last thing I see is Connor's glowing red eyes before he throws my hand to the side and sinks his teeth into my skin. I scream. Which was a killer cliffhanger. Alright, let's theorize about Wicked Souls, which I'm very excited about. I don't really have that many theories. I thought I did, and I started to like really try to plan them, and I'm not really sure. I have a feeling that Wicked Souls is probably going to take further place. I'm really hoping outside of the estate. This is book 2. I originally planned this was a 4-book series, so one could assume that book 2 and book 3 are our middle books, and so one can hope that they're, you know, great. I know how much of a journey this was for her to write, and so I'm just curious to see how it is as soon as we get our hands on it. I'm really excited to read it and stuff. It's much longer. It's like 200 pages longer, which I'm really, really excited about. It's also supposedly much more steamier, which I'm really excited about. I have read the first 8 pages of chapter 1, and I fucking adored it. It was so good. It was so, so good. And I wanted to read more. Like, it was so invigorating. I'm just super duper excited about it. So yeah, I'm trying to think of like theories. Like, I think Valerie will figure out why she is a vampire, why she's becoming a vampire, and I wouldn't even be surprised if that storyline does end in that book. I do wonder. I do wonder if we figure out who exactly did curse her or put the poison in her thing. I have a feeling that could possibly be revealed in this book, and obviously more things to come. I'm curious to see the fallouts between, like I said, Reginald and her, how that relationship is going to grow. I saw a little bit of rekindling in those first 8 pages, so don't get your hopes too high up. I don't really think this is something. I'm curious to see how it works out. Obviously, I'm also super duper curious to see what happens with Connor in general. and what that means. I do know the fate of Connor and why the ending happened. I'm not going to spoil that here, but you do realize you do learn it really early on in the next book. So I once again just it's overall just very lots of curiosity. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Don't comment down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions on the Marionettes. Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys love it as much as I did? And I'll talk to you guys all soon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.